Wayne LaPierre, the CEO of the NRA, is filled with passionate intensity. In his press conference following the shooting in Sandy Hook Elementary School, he identified the problem as having gun-free school zones. His solution: put armed guards in schools. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. At the same time, at the exact same time he was speaking, a gunman in Pennsylvania killed 3 people after shooting up a rural church. I imagine LaPierre has a plan for arming ministers. I will reserve judgment until I hear exactly what he has in mind. But right now, I don't think it's a good idea. LaPierre has already sent a clear message to members of Congress who fear the wrath of the NRA. His decree, in the wake of Sandy Hook, had the same chill as that of Pharaoh and Herod. No compromise on banning assault weapons or any gun control issue. With the intractable, non-cooperative spirit of the House of Representatives already revealed in the last session of Congress, we see the fight that lies ahead. The real barrier, though, is less about the irrational House and more about our own issues surrounding courage and conviction. What can we say about courage? Well, let me contrast 2 images. 1, a Congress cowering before the will of the NRA. Compare that to the second image, the teachers at Sandy Hook who gave their lives to protect the children, most noticeably the image that will remain indelibly pressed in my mind of the teacher laying on top of 2 6-year-olds whom she was trying to shield. Now, let's talk about courage and conviction. Would it be different in Michigan today? Because on the day before the Newtown killings, lawmakers passed a bill over the objection of the state school boards that would allow people to carry concealed weapons in schools. Would it be different in Ohio today? On the very same day as the Newtown killings, Ohio lawmakers passed a bill that would allow guns in cars at the State House garage. And just a few days before the Newtown killings, a federal appeals court struck down a ban on carrying concealed weapons in Illinois. And Florida officials announced that they would soon issue their millionth concealed weapon and firearm license, or as the state news release put it, the program would be 1 million strong. This in Florida, where the shooting of Trayvon Martin, an unarmed black teenager, ought to have provided the incentive to stop arming every person who simply needs to breathe in order to obtain weapons. And then, of course, there's Spring City, Utah. In the growing national discussion about regulating guns, Spring City elected officials plan to recommend that every resident own a firearm and learn how to use it. Why? Because, according to Spring City Councilman Neil Sorensen, it would protect their Second Amendment right to bear arms. I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired of Second Amendment babbles signifying nothing. Aside from Spring City, Utah, which I don't believe will necessarily influence the whole nation nor make that artist community any safer, we need to get serious about courage and conviction in light of the following disclosure. After the shooting of Representative Gabby Giffords and others at the supermarket in 2011, the Justice Department, our Justice Department, drew up a detailed list of steps the government could take to expand, background check systems in order to reduce the risk of guns falling into the hands of mentally ill people and criminals. These proposals were shelved at the department without action as the election campaign began to heat up. I am loath to think of President Obama too fearful to confront the number one public safety issue of our time. Yet following the Newtown, Connecticut killings, Obama did say the enormity of controlling the culture of guns and the epidemic of gun violence can't be an excuse for inaction. What's troubling is that our president said the same thing before after 2 previous mass killings and did nothing. If there ever was a time to ask, what would Jesus do? This is the time. In a self-professed Christian nation quick to pray for the families who lost loved ones due to gun violence, we need to bring voice to the reality that prayer, thank you, is not enough. God, if we want to talk about a loving and merciful God, gave us the intelligence to bring about change. It's all about intelligence and the ability to read statistical facts. Do we have the courage to enter facts into the debate? Now, you can check the actual numbers yourself. They're boring to just rattle off. But a clear correlation exists that countries that arm the good guys have the highest homicide rates. And if we don't want to compare the United States to other industrialized nations, then read the statistics of the number of gun owners in New York compared with Wyoming, and the same results will bite you in the butt. More guns equal more killings. You can't get around it. It's a matter of courage and conviction, and also hope. Hope that we can summon the courage to finally ban firearms in our nation. And it's also about committing ourselves to expanding our investment in mental health services. Proper diagnosis can and often does start, where else, but in our schools. Yet we continue to cut funding for school counselors, school social workers, school psychologists. States have cut $4.35 billion in public mental health spending from 2009 to 2012. We must reverse this trend if we hope to stand a chance. I want to close with some weighty words written back in 1946 by Albert Camus. His essay, Neither Victims Nor Executioners, describe the basic moral choices involved when living in a world broken by violence. True, he's alluding to the post-World War II realities and the huge threat of nuclear annihilation in a confrontation between the United States and Russia. But his analysis of hope bears testimony to every generation that feels hope dwindling in the shadow of violence. He writes, in the coming years, an endless struggle will be waged across 5 continents, a struggle in which either violence or dialogue will prevail. Granted, the former has nearly 1,000 times the chance of the latter. But I have always thought, if the person who places hope in the human condition is a fool, then he who gives up hope in the face of circumstances is a coward. I've always thought that if the person who places hope in the human condition is a fool, then he who gives up hope in the face of circumstances is a coward. Henceforth, the only honor will lie in obstinately holding to a formidable gamble that words are stronger than bullets. In the following weeks and months, many demonstrations are planned all over the country. We need to show up. Absolutist policy shuts the gates of mercy. The best lack conviction, while the worst are filled with passionate intensity. Words are stronger than bullets.